Okay, so we got another micro here from FLYWOO. This is the Venom H20. So this is a Hex X configuration here with 6 motors. 2-inch propellers are actually, these are the, I think, 51mm propellers from GemFan 5-bladed. We have some 1203 4850 kV motors on here, so designed for a 4S setup. We basically, in the Hex X motor setup here, you have 2 motors in the front. They're basically in the normal position. You have 2 motors in the back, also in upward position. And then in this design, you have 2 motors in the middle on each side that are inverted. So the prop is upside down, the motor's upside down here, the thrust pointing down still. A little bit of, you can see, overlap here between the props. So you have some thrust coming from the front and back motors, also combining with the thrust on the bottom motors there, pushing down. I didn't notice any unusual problems with that, though. You're going to probably see some turbulence from the combined thrust there in some situations. It kind of depends on how you're flying it. But this is how they've configured their Hex X setup here. So the frame here is a single piece bottom plate, 2.5mm for 6 arms, and a top plate of 1mm. You've got a vista, or actually a naked vista here, that's hanging off of the top plate. And then you have a F745 flight controller stack there. I believe that's a 35 amp 4-in-1 AC at the bottom there, bursting to 45 amps. F7 on the flight or for the CPU on the flight controller. The version that I have here has the MPU 6000 gyro, and as you know, there's a lot of flight stacks are transitioning over to the BMI 270 gyro. So the tune on here wasn't really complete or finished. They gave me a tune for a different battery than I was able to acquire, so I flew mine with a Force 520, which fits nicely on the bottom here. It just kind of slides in here. You have the sticky pad there and their battery strap, and then the battery just plugs into the back over here. But this was a little bit light for the tune that they gave me. They gave me a tune for a 750 milliamp hour 4S with the weight of the GoPro bones on the top, and then the mount here is got an M3 screw mount for the bones, like so. But you can't get a flat angle on this with this angle. The lowest it will go would be about this much right here, and I matched the FPV camera to that angle because the height of the mount here isn't high enough to give you a totally flat angle. By the way, this is the Caddx Polar Nano camera on here, the 14mm camera on this one here. And they also sent along a Express LRS receiver for this one, 2.4 gigahertz with the antenna, as you see here. And this little plug here is for the bones, so it's not the exact same factory plug, but it will work, but it doesn't have the locking mechanism, so it might pop out. So I think it slides in like this. Yeah, and it gives it power, but it doesn't lock in like the stock plug. It's very similar, so it might vibrate. I'd just be aware of that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the stock plug is hard to find. It's not really easy to locate. That's probably why they went with that one. But yeah, this is, you know, meant for carrying the bones. Obviously, you can carry some other naked GoPros, but you're gonna have to swap out this plug, probably do some soldering. It's got the mount for that. I'm not sure if other mounts will become available for this one here. There's also these prop guards that you can put on here to sort of turn it into like a Cinewhoop, and they did not send those along. But yeah, I kind of digress here. Regarding the PID tune on here, this is kind of a pre-production. It's close to pre-production. It's an early version. I think the hardware here is pretty much all final, but they are still tweaking the PID tune, and I'm fairly certain at some point this F745 stack, while they might be shipping the MPU 6000 now for the early batches, later on they're going to probably switch over to the BMI 270 gyro. I already know on some of their other stacks that they've seen, like the F405 16x16 stack, they've already switched over to the BMI 270 for their listing. So the pid tune's going to obviously change on here. They did send me an updated pid tune for the 520 with the bones, and that worked out great. With the pid tune they originally gave me for a heavier setup, it was a little bit wobbly because it was the pid tune is, I think, for the smaller motors and props, the pid tune's more sensitive to the overall weight, so you're gonna have to make some adjustments based on the battery you're using. So I'm not sure which 754th they're using here, because with these little landing feet here, there's only so much space on the bottom for a battery. If it's too tall, then you're going to be landing on the battery, and then it's going to be like the legs aren't actually going to be touching. So it would be nice to have actually bigger landing legs here. Gives you a little more clearance for that bottom motor. So not that much clearance there, and also more clearance for a bigger battery. So that's one of the suggestions I think would be good for this one. Yeah, when you have the bones on here and the battery and everything, and we turn it on, there's like some lights on here, some LEDs to come over here and over here. That's what these look like, landing feet, but there's actually a little cover for the LEDs are inside there, and there's some LEDs, of course, on the board. I think a lot of the FLYWOO stuff still has a lot of LEDs in their stuff. It's nice, makes it look flashy and kind of different from other people's stuff, but it does draw a little bit of power. I'm not that huge in LEDs, but it looks cool. It's a nice little design. But this is kind of an interesting drone all around. It's kind of, I would say, it has a lot of versatility. With 6 motors, you can have a lot more power. It can definitely be pretty fast. If you fly it without any HD camera on top here, it's really fast, and it's got a lot of acro ability with 6 motors. But at the same time, you're going to be having a shorter flight time. So with this 5-bladed propeller, and you have basically 6 motors, you're basically you're increasing your power output at the expense of flight time. So if you're looking for long flight times, this is probably not the model for you. This is going to be more for people that want more speed. And so that's another thing. If you don't have a lot of weight and you just want like sort of like a drag racy type of drone, this is pretty fast without any HD camera on there. And then also at the same time, you can put the bones on here or some other 4K camera, get some nice cinematic footage. You can fly with or without the prop guards, so you can get sort of Cinewhoopy type footage out of this as well, because it can fly slow and fast. So it's got a lot of versatility. But I think the biggest downside is if you're looking for a long flight time with the extra motors, you don't really get that. But on a smaller form factor here, with a 2-inch propeller, you get a lot more power and power to weight ratio, a lot more authority. So yeah, even with the bones on here, I was able to do flippy floppies with it, no problem. It's got plenty of power with 6 motors. So that's sort of the trade-off, is you get more power with the traditional motors, but you just get a little bit less flight time, and you just have more versatility all around for what you want to do with it. So you can fly this fast, fly it slow. You can use it as a freestyler. You could even race with this if you want, or do Cinewhoop stuff if you put the prop guards on for indoor stuff, or not. You can just get Cinewhoopy type flights without the prop guards, and it's totally fine as well. So definitely a lot of versatility all around. Anyway, yeah, FLYWOO, they do kind of different stuff. They're putting out these different designs. Sometimes they attract a lot of attention, sometimes not. What do you guys think? Are you guys like, well, I just will stick to quads, or are you like, well, I'm all for newer, different stuff? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.